This morning, why not crack open a few fragments of silicon?
Welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon, the Daylight Interviews. Joining us this week, returning after a bit of time, is our good friend Maciej, and this time he has brought a friend along with him, Bartek Pieczonka. Am I pronouncing that right?
Close enough. It's difficult even in Polish to pronounce. So
okay. Right. So how I think we're going to start things is we're going to get an introduction to you, Bartek, since you are new to our program. And how we do that is we like to get to know the people via their history. And we do that by asking this question: what got you interested in video games, both on a personal and a professional level?
Okay, on a personal level, it's really hard to tell. I was 2 when I started playing video games, so I don't really remember my motivations except probably thinking, well, that's fun, a lot of colors and sounds, and I was playing ever since, and video games became my main hobby, and after a while, my main kind of passion and kind of source of entertainment in my life. And when I was kind of a teenager, young adult, I started thinking about games in a more professional manner, maybe how they are made, what makes them work, what makes them special. I was looking at visual design mostly, also animation, story, and kind of began to get more into the kind of guts of what makes games and what makes digital entertainment special to me. And at some point, I just started making games. Maciej was actually a big part of that, because I was studying when I was 20 something years old. I was studying game design and general game development from Maciej. He's a tutor at a school called Game Dev School, and that's kind of how it started for me more professionally. After a couple of months, I met up with my current partner in crime, Rafał, and we created this game called Lichtspiel. And after that, our company, Lichthund, and that was already 7 years ago. And since then, I'm just kind of, making more games and creating Food Truck Empire right now. We created a bigger team, and kind of going with the punches.
Right. So how did you end up at, are you part of Pixel Crow, movie games, or both?
Actually, I'm part of
neither.
Yeah. So actually, we're working together with Pixel Crow, with Maciej, because of our prior relationship. We know each other, and we're kind of responsible for creating Food Truck Empire. And Pixel Crow is kind of taking care of the Maciej. How would you say it in English?
Yes, it's a co-production.
Yeah, co-production.
Actually, but most of the work is done by the Lichthund, which means Bartek and other guys, and girls, and we are providing, let's say, guidance, money, and we work together to make the best game ever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Have your two companies collaborated on a project before, or is this like the first formal gathering of the minds?
Well, we knew for each other for some time. I was their tutor. I observed how they work on their first game, Lichtspiel, and this is described in the documentary called We Are All Right. You can watch it on Steam and other probably platforms. So I encourage everyone to watch this documentary because it's great. And we are there as well.
Yeah.
So I was closely observing how the guys are doing, and at some point we started talking about making game together because we had the idea for the food truck empire, but frankly speaking, I have no idea how to make such game because I like the concept. I would like to see such game being made, but I don't play tycoon games basically, so I have no idea how to make one. So we start talking with Bartek, and Bartek said, "Hey, I play a lot of such games, so I have some idea how to make that happen." And we said, let's join forces and make the game. Simply as that.
Okay. But though before we delve deeper down that path, I do want to clarify something because Movie Games is actually, I don't know if they're funding, but they are at least publishing 2 food truck games. You've got Food Truck Empire here, and you've got Food Truck Simulator.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, but this is a completely different project and created by separate studio independently. It's just a coincidence. But we were focusing more on the game where you manage the empire, the business enterprise, not just making fast food in your food truck, but creating the business. We had different ideas. We had different ideas for the presentation, how the game should look, and they wanted to create a simple, at that time, a simple simulator. They were quite successful with the gas station simulator, so they probably have a pretty good understanding how to create a good simulator game. So probably the food truck will be pretty great simulator if you like this kind of games. But this is not what we wanted. So we said, okay, let's create 2 food truck and let's publish 2 food truck games. And that way we will cover the food truck business from different angles, let's say.
Like, I can understand the reasoning. Though, has anyone gotten the 2 games confused? Does that come up often?
Not really, because I think the message is pretty clear which game is which, and the target is rather different. The fans of simulators like the first-person view. They like to do this manual work with everything, which is in the food truck, and we have this, top-down view. We are the gods, just managing. In reality, we are just managing numbers, but obviously the player doesn't see those numbers that much because that wouldn't be fun. So I believe the audience is different, and we are trying to communicate this clearly.
Yeah, we also just
Go ahead.
towards yeah, for us it's also a matter of kind of a different audience. We're kind of making a mix of an old school tycoon game, like from the 90s or the early 2000s, kind of the golden age of tycoon games. We're more inspired by maybe titles like Roller Coaster Tycoon or 2 Point Hospital, stuff like that, and we think it's kind of a different area than typical simulator games, when you kind of the players focused on doing like some tasks, simulating reality, let's call it, and less of this kind of fantasy of you're owning a huge empire or you're building your own empire and you kind of customize a lot of things, but you kind of, there's a different sense of gameplay loop, and the satisfaction goes from a different place.
Right. And was there a particular reason why you chose a food truck as your tycoon base?
Well,
yeah, go Maciej first.
Yeah,
I'll be after.
Because the idea came from us, and we were talking about what usually when you are thinking about the future and you are developing a game and thinking about the future project, you are trying to find some let's say not necessarily niche, but something which is not yet explored. And we were discussing different types of games, different ideas, and at some point it would be great to see the tycoon game about the food truck. So that and I did some kind of research and looked for such games and realized that there is none on the market. So this is something we could use and exploit and be unique. That was the idea.
And from my perspective, more of maybe a developer perspective, I find that it's a nice opportunity. I had this idea that like a food truck is something else than a typical tycoon game when you just build stuff. A food truck can be a mobile base. It's something that combines two things I love about tycoons and strategy games. So one aspect is base building or just managing space, your spaces, and upgrading stuff, and all that jazz. And the other thing is kind of responding to the environment, responding to things that are happening in the game. And I saw an opportunity that we can create this game when at the same time you have to plan how each food truck will look like, what it will do, how it will behave, design each food truck as this little small base of operations. And on the other level, you'll have to kind of assess where you should put it. If you should change the way you play your game, you can kind of react to the world changing around you. And that way the game never becomes stale. So you never have this feeling that you sometimes get in typical tycoon games that, well, I've built everything is kind of running smoothly. I kind of figured out the economics of stuff, and now it's just boring. And I'm playing at maximum speed, just watching money go in, and there's just nowhere left for me to go as a player. And I thought it's exciting that there's more possibilities of adding moving pieces to the gameplay with food trucks. And it's a simple idea. A food truck is a simple idea, but actually there's a lot of things you can pack in gameplay wise into this simple concept.
Also, despite this being a tycoon game, you are creating business that many people can really relate to. So you can see yourself running such business. This is not a huge, industrial empire, but this is something you could actually do if you had the courage or have enough funds and the idea how to do this. So
yeah, exactly. So
we mix building the business empire, but on the other hand, you are building your food trucks. You are deciding where the equipment is placed in the food truck. You decide what kind of food you sell and what is necessary to provide for this food. So this is something that we hope many players can relate to.
Exactly. If you want to build your empire of avocado toast food trucks, you can do it. You can create your empire of avocado truck food trucks and see how our game will react to your kind of idea of and your ways of expressing yourself through food trucks and food and all that stuff.
All right. So there's multiple paths to victory, let's say.
Yes, definitely. It's there are some kind of set objectives that are usually in games like this, but most of the objectives, there's a ton of ways you can achieve them. Basically, if there's let's say an objective to get a certain amount of money or a certain amount of clients or a particular level of reviews from clients, there's no one way to achieve it. You can find a part of your town or district when there's. Let me give you a gameplay example. There's a city district that has a lot of kind of business people, and around lunchtime there's a lunch rush, and those people are wealthy. They like premium food, maybe sushi, and they have their preferences. So we can either invest in building a food truck that's a bit more expensive, but has this premium stuff and premium sushi stuff, for instance, and you go there during lunch rush to the city center, and for within a few hours, you get enough money or prestige or clients, or depending on the objective, and you get your goal. But another player can decide that, well, maybe I'm just going to build a bunch of food trucks that are really cheap, have really cheap, I don't know, hot dogs and cheap meat. And I'm going to find another district, maybe around a stadium, that I know that around a certain hour there will be a football match, for instance, a soccer match, or a concert. And I will find crowds of people that will be looking for cheap food. And instead of going for, premium quality product, I will go for scale. And that way I will also achieve my goal. And that's a very simple example, but there's a lot of ways you can kind of change stuff around and decide which path is best for you, and all of them will lead you to victory. There's no like one set rule.
Right. So is it difficult to keep track of all of this, given that this sounds like a lot?
It sounds like a lot, but our main goal is something which is kind of a core in designing food truck empire for us, is that we're designing this game in layers. So the first layer, the basic layer that the player sees, the main UI and all the information over there are very simple and just the basic stuff you need, and it will kind of point you in the right direction. So if you really don't want to go into all the details and the data and stuff like that, you will always find a way. It might not be the perfect way, the most optimized and the best way possible, but it will be good enough for you to progress the game and to enjoy the game. But if you want to go into all the details, manually set prices and go into all those spreadsheets, kind of, you have a fetish for spreadsheet stuff, then you can do it, but it's going to be hidden a bit from the main UI, etc. So we don't want to intimidate players. We want to have give players a kind of smooth, streamlined gameplay experience, but at the same time, the systems that are underneath gameplay are very deep, and that gives us flexibility. So if we want to create a simple scenario that has a simple answer, we can do it. But if we want to create a bit more difficult scenario, maybe something that's optional for players who are looking for an extra challenge, we also have the depth in our systems to do that.
Are you looking to have like a tutorial mode?
Yeah, of course. We're going to have a tutorial mode. Right now we're looking at kind of doing something akin to a campaign when we introduce players to the mechanics gradually. You start with just a few simple options, a few simple kind of technologies, let's call them. And as you proceed through gameplay, you kind of build up on what you learn. So it should be pretty interesting to players, but we don't want at any point to overwhelm anybody. And for sure, there will be a tutorial mode and a learning curve period.
Understandable, as games of this nature can be overwhelming. Like capitalism comes to mind, like the actual game.
Yeah.
Like and
yeah, but
go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that we're kind of, from the get-go, our goal was to kind of avoid that heavy, because in games like capitalism, the systems are really great, but all the systems are kind of in front of the player. It's just like, here you go, figure shit out. And we're going more in the way of, we're actually going to hide a bit of complexity from you so you don't get scared. It's there, so everything, like the world is alive in ways that actually are interesting, and unexpected things can happen to the player. And there's a sense of achievement when you actually manage to do something right in the game. But we don't want it to be, there's a lot of kind of thought from our side to make the gameplay not overwhelming, not scary, not too much information at the same time, kind of, ease player in.
And in terms of the campaign mode, are you looking to frame it in terms of a story or more like what SimCity does?
I think we're going right now more in for the SimCity route. We were thinking about more. I don't know if you played the old Stronghold games when you had the story was always based around a very kind of strong nemesis, a character that you were fighting against, and that was our initial plan to have this kind of competition that has a face and a voice, and you're kind of fighting against him. But then we found that it makes things more confusing, and the SimCity approach, the kind of City Skylines approach, when you kind of gradually open up stuff in front of the players, is easier and it works best. And also 2 Point Hospital, I don't know if you play this game, they're actually doing the campaign mode in a pretty similar fashion to what we were planning. You're starting with just, the campaign is basically an excuse to introduce more and more technology and kind of gameplay loops and scenarios to the player gradually. And we're looking at that as well. So you're starting, maybe the first town you're starting in is just a very small town with, just a few spots you can set up your food truck in, and just, simple, just a few simple NPCs and client types and food types, so you don't get overwhelmed. And then we escalate, and now there's a bigger city, and now there's an even bigger city, and you have more people and more stuff happening during the day, etc., etc. So after 12 hours, you will have a ton of different things happening, but at the same time, you will already know the game well enough that you can choose what's important, what's not important to you, etc.
Well, another question I have is like, how robust is the economic system? For example, do you have to keep tally on expenses like keeping your food truck going, or dealing with taxes? Do you have to acquire a liquor license? Those sort of deals.
No, we kind of threw away all the aspects of the economy that are not crucial to our gameplay loop. So all the kind of micromanagement stuff is out. We focused on kind of simulating the costs of each meal, because you kind of create your meals by creating the proper equipment within your food truck. It's kind of similar to if you played Factorio, for instance, or Big Pharma, games like that. The interior of the food truck is you actually build in it, and depending on the equipment you set up, you create kind of this, let's say, flow of food. And if you want to create a certain kind of dish, you have to have certain elements, equipment in that food truck, and that determines the speed, the price, the quality of your food. And we wanted to focus mostly on that aspect of economy, plus the kind of costs and costs and the money the income you get from your clients, and and extra kind of objectives. So we threw away all the micromanagement stuff, like paying for gas or paying taxes and things like that. We don't have alcohol in the game, so no licensing of that kind. So it's very basic in a sense. So you won't get lost in the numbers, but there's still a lot of things that are happening when you're deciding on your dish and customizing your food truck. So to make it, to put it in one sentence, the economy is kind of compressed, and all the kind of unnecessary, maybe more realistic, but unnecessary, in our opinion, costs and elements are compressed into food truck creation and everything you're doing within a single food truck, and then your feed together.
That is understandable, as this is still a game and not a teaching tool of business.
Yes, it was, I think, quite important for at least for me to keep this game, let's say, mid-core players accessible, because I'm getting older and I am not a fan of playing such complex economic games. I would like to play the game and have fun. So the game, I think, focuses on your food truck, your meals, and your customer, and everything around it. So it was a good decision to really discard everything else, because that will simply make everything more complex and less accessible for the mid-core players, old guys and gals.
Always a trade-off. Like, and in terms of like the cities and the food, how realistic is it all? Like, are you in like real cities? Are you in fake cities? In terms of like your food, is it very international based? Do you have a lot of Polish food since you're based in Poland? That kind of thing.
So it's not realistic at all. We have a lot of food, but it's kind of we decided that gameplay is more important than realism in Food Truck Empire. So the cities are not real. The cities they make sense. They're not cartoonish, but we designed them in a way that kind of make them more fun. So it's more based on, is it a good level design? Will it work for the player and his experience? Then let's make it look as realistic as possible and as big as it should be, etc. So the cities are not realistic. And as far as the food goes, we didn't want to make this a game. Again, this comes back to the question about complexity. We didn't want to make a game when, if you want to make a burger, you have to put on the tomato and cheese and salad and all, the patty. If you want to make a burger, you just decide what, if it's like a fancy burger with seafood, because somebody might like seafood, or is it like a normal cheap burger with a classic meat burger? And we wanted to make the player choices simple. We wanted the player to be able to understand the system. So if he sees a hipster in one district of one town, and he checks his preferences, and it says that he's a vegetarian and he hates burgers, then if he's going to make a veggie taco for him, he can be sure that he's going to eat it. So we didn't want to, make it too realistic, too complex, because we believed, like Maciej said, that the fun is when we focus on the food truck, make the meals interesting and make as many options for the players to create different meals, but at the same time keep it simple and not overwhelm him with, the price of lettuce is going up, so you're going bankrupt, because that's not what we want to have in this game.
And is there a win state, at least in the campaign mode? Like, what do you have to do to, complete that?
Well, it depends on the level. You have different objectives. They can be related to getting, enough of, let's say, one type of client has to have a satisfaction rate of, let's say, 4.5 stars, and then you unlock the next district or the next level, the next city. It can be an objective like, let's say, from an early game, one of the towns has this camping ground district, and you want to unlock it. So you have to there's an objective, unlock that camping district, because you want to go there next. And to do it, you have to do this and that. So for instance, you have to have this technology, you have to have 4 food trucks and something else. And then you just have to, the player kind of finds his way. Okay, so I need 3 food trucks, so I need this amount of money. I can buy 3 food trucks. I have to have this research. So in order to have this research, I have to have different resources, money, prestige, time. And after I complete those objectives, I unlock the next thing. And the winning state, I guess, for the campaign is the player gets to a point when he unlocked everything, achieved everything that's possible in the game. He saw everything in the game, but then there's an option for the free mode when he can just explore and see how far he can get. Because of the open nature of our system, I think right now it would be impossible for you to have a food truck empire that makes food, meals that everybody will enjoy everywhere. You always have to focus on something. It's impossible to have, that one meal that everybody loves, or have one type of everything. You have to focus on something. Every town is different. Every neighborhood is different, and every level will be different. And at the same time, there's, I don't, yeah, and I think that's it can be kind of an endless mode. I guess people will surprise us, because they always surprise developers with what they're able to do with games. But there's no typical kind of win state, because it's of the open-ended nature of the gameplay.
Okay. So are you looking into the inverse as well? That is to say, scenario mode. Like that was another feature of SimCity, where you'd have, very narrow, specific goals to achieve in a certain amount of time.
Yeah. We can do. I mean, right now we're not actively working on it. We're focusing on doing the campaign and free play mode. But we have a system in place that allows us to create scenarios quite easily. We're very flexible in that sense. So I think I'm pretty sure our designers would love to make a few scenarios, especially a few wacky ones, because it's always the ones that are the most fun to make. But I can't tell you if we're going to include them at the moment. We for sure we would love to have scenarios, but we'll see.
And I suppose should ask, what is the actual state of development of the game? How far along is it, and how far would you estimate is still yet to be developed?
Maciej, you want to say something, or should I?
Yeah, you should. You know better.
Yeah, I'm the bad person, because I'm not the producer. I'm the creative director. So for me, it's like I could do this game for 10 more years if it was up to me. It would never be done in my book. But right now we're at the moment that we have all the systems in place, all the gameplay mechanics in place. We're working on. We have, from kind of art style side and technical side, we have almost everything done. We're taking care of level design, creating more cities, and kind of structuring the gameplay, so the pacing is okay. And actually, currently we're working on our AI for the NPCs, so our clients, because they're a little bit too smart and too well designed, like too well simulated. There's too much intelligence in them, and they kind of make choices that actually make sense, but are too realistic. So it's hard for the player to sometimes plan accordingly, because they get their moods, and it's just there's because the gameplay is divided into days, and each day kind of all our NPCs have those routines that, okay, I'm leaving my house and going somewhere, and it's divided into hours. So let's say, oh, it's 9 a.m. I'm a business guy, so I'm going out of my house in the suburbs and going into the city district, right? And I also like sushi, like I said before, and I'm not hungry, but I will be hungry in a moment. And each day they behave completely differently, because the underlying AI and simulation is a bit too realistic, let's say. And we want the player to be able, to kind of guess what's going to happen the next day. So we're working currently on making sure that we can steer our AI a bit better, and maybe predict a bit better how they will behave, and when they, we want them to go a certain path more often than not. And that's what we're working on now. That's one of the last big challenges I think we have. But when it's done, I'm estimating 65% is done. 66%.
Well, we
75.
yeah. We are working also, besides working on the game itself, we are working on some additional elements that will help us to market the game. So there is this companion app that will allow you to build your food truck before the game is available and have fun. We probably will release demo at some point before the game is released, because this is how we roll, and this is a good way to build the audience, to to get some traction. And we will release the game when it's ready, obviously, because we want this game to be as good as possible, considering our scale and well, the budget we have. So I think it will be, frankly speaking, it will be early next year.
Yeah.
Okay.
I concur.
Okay. Though clearly this is a fluid situation, so don't hold our guests to their word on that. Like, now, have you determined any sort of pricing for Food Truck Empire yet?
Not yet, but it will be probably in the range of $20 or something. We will see, because it depends on many things. We will see how big the game is, how big the interest for the game is, and we will see the competition at near the release. This is something which is decided really very late, because it's changes, the situation changes, and we will know more about the game, about its potential, when the game is closer to the release, and then we will make the final decision about the price. But it is still the indie game, so it will be priced accordingly, I think.
And are you making this game for Windows only, or will there be builds for Mac and Linux as well?
Oh my. We're making it for Windows only right now, but I think Mac, maybe. I mean, we did all our previous games on Mac. I mean, all Lichtspiel, but also we have a history of making games for Mac and Linux. So maybe, but I can't promise you anything, because the programmers will kill me if I promise it.
That is understandable for a multitude of reasons.
Yeah, I think the Mac is maybe the option. It depends how technically difficult it is. Linux, not so much, I have to be frank, because I did some Linux port and it was a nightmare.
Sorry, Linux fans.
Sorry, Linux fans, but it is a nightmare from the developer's point of view, because we are not very fluent with Linux, and for us it's always a bit of guessing and trying to get it running, because the game is done in Unity. In Unity, building for the different platforms is easy. It's almost a matter of pressing the different button. But there are some nuances and some technical differences, and it's very difficult to figure out what to do in the specific scenario. Mac is much easier because the number of Macs is very small, and we can test it properly and decide, okay, this product is good for this platform. In terms of Linux, this is very complicated, and I did that, and I got a lot of flack for my game not working some specific distributions and stuff, and I couldn't help people because, well, it was beyond my expertise at this point. And obviously we would like to see the game on other platforms as well, including consoles and stuff, but this is very PC oriented game at this moment, and we need to finish the PC version first and see how it goes, and then make the decisions about the porting it to other platforms. We would like to see the game on everything, because it's great to have people playing your game on anything they can. But the the kind of game requires a specific approach to user interface, and it's difficult on other platforms.
And in terms of PC storefronts, is this coming to Steam, or will there be releases for GOG and the EGS as well?
Yeah, we have good relationship with all the platforms, so I don't see any problem with the game being released on all those platforms.
Okay. Right. I think that about does it for my questions. I'll see if my colleagues here have anything additional for you.
I think everything I was thinking of we covered.
Yes, likewise.
All right. So yeah, it was lovely having you both on the program to talk about Food Truck Empire. Certainly looking forward to seeing how it develops, and hopefully it comes out early next year. And hopefully we'll have you back on the program when another game from either movie games or one of the parties involved here is ready to talk about that. But in the meantime, the game is Food Truck Empire. It is available on all the PC storefronts. Be sure to wishlist it today. And
Yes.
Do that.
And there
Also,
will be a demo. Oh, talk, Maciej.
Okay. Finish about the demo.
I just wanted to say that we're making a demo. It's going to be available soon. Before that, we're going to probably have something special as well, a companion app that we're going to probably talk about soon. We're also going to be posting some devlogs about what we're doing in the game and what's happening. So keep posted. It's going to probably, I don't know, Maciej, where it's going to be available. Steam, probably, those devlogs.
Yeah. Steam is still our main platform to connect with the players and build a community. Maybe we will set up a Discord server at some point. So if wishlist the game on Steam and look for the new information on Steam. And also, if you would like to learn something about indie development, watch the movie We Are All Right, because this is a great documentary, and Bartek is in it.
Yeah, I'm in it. You can watch it. Enjoy. It shows the kind of real life of
It's a great story, and if you would like to see the game development from the real game development, watch the movie because it's great.
So yeah, that'll do it for this installment of Fragments of Silicon. See you next on the Sunday reviews, and until then, I'll wish you good gaming.